Rachel, please. And I've now moved item 15 to now in regards to Mahurangi. Can I say to both you and the wardens and people who were on the tiki tour of the land that the whenua purchased, thank you so much. So I'll leave it to you. There's a short presentation for everybody and then we'll open up for questions. I will, however, go to Councillor Sayers when he gets back for any comments as he attended the tiki tour. Kia ora nā, tēnā kōrua.
Atamarie, Mr. Chairman and councillors, good to be here. So today we just thought we'd give you a visual journey through Mahurangi East Peninsula and the addition that will be secured finally tomorrow for regional parkland for the northeast. So the history of this this acquisition dates back to last year, where you approved to pursue the acquisition. You may remember that the philanthropy that's involved in this acquisition was from the John Turnbull and Margaret Turnbull Trusts to secure significant funding. So over $5 million of funding was secured for this acquisition from philanthropy. So that's a significant gift to the people of New Zealand and Aucklanders. So we're very grateful for that. This is an addition of 95 hectares, so doubling of the parkland, and importantly, connecting it so that people can access land that was already owned by Aucklanders from the land, as before it was landlocked, if you liked, around, and could only be accessed from Mahurangi Harbour or from the Hauraki Gulf. So really the journey we can take you on, this is the land looking from the north towards the south and the mouth of the Mahurangi Harbour over towards Mahurangi West. So the total area of the property of the parkland with that addition of 95 hectares is almost 190 hectares. You can see has significant coastline connecting to Alges Bay, Martins Bay area, so quite a popular area. The acquisition was a high priority in our assessment against the policy, community need being high. This location, the future urban land supply strategy demonstrates in the next 30 years over 130,000 new residents, 45,000 new houses, so significant demand in this location. We are also experiencing high growth in adjacent regional parks, which have some issues with visitor experience. So both Scandrett Regional Park, which is close by, has increased 66% in the visitation over the last 10 years, and Mahurangi West, which is across the mouth of the harbour, has increased by 60% visitation, so over 120,000 visitors. Increasing over that time. So these are very popular destinations for Aucklanders travelling some distance. The recreation opportunities provided at this park and the future opportunities really relate around what you'd typically expect: swimming, family time, picnicking, mountain biking, walking, and there will be opportunities to develop back to basic campsites. And this will open up greater accessibility to existing batch escapes that are on the existing property that is owned, regional park, and an additional batch escape as well. Conservation opportunities, freshwater wetlands, significant coastal Pahutakawa forest, and being a peninsula, there's some real opportunities for enhancing the biodiversity. Significant views, as you'll see, back in towards the harbour, very popular destination in its own right, so creating accessibility from the harbour. Some of the cultural landscape, so a significant part of the valuation, so a rich history of the cultural landscape, two significant pa on this property, one which was on the existing land, which was secured in 2012. The original land was purchased in 1970 for landscape and cultural heritage protection. So there's been a long journey on creating this destination regional park. Other sites of significance for mana whenua. As we head into the next few years, or next year and later this year, Rachel and others are leading the review of the Regional Parks Management Plan, which will include significant engagement with mana whenua, and in this case Ngāti Manuhiri. The other opportunities are around, so this is the new batch that will be provided for access to Aucklanders to book and enjoy this place. I think the chairman might have an early booking, I'm not sure. But significant views up the coastline looking north. You can see it as a narrow isthmus of a peninsula, access to both the estuary of Te Kapa estuary on the western side, but also significant access to the east and the Hauraki Gulf. So quite a connection from green parkland to blue parkland in this case. And further views from that house and property. These on the original regional parkland, there are other significant beaches which are the classic crescent-shaped white sandy beaches that will now be much more accessible. As you can see by the road there, it's a basic road, so we do have some greater needs, and of course. Elected members busy leaning on the farm gate. Yeah.
Just to let you know, I wasn't in the picture, I was doing the work.
There was some thistle grubbing done, but I think the mayor might have done that. And I guess symbolically, this was private property leading from the existing parkland to this new acquisition that you've made for Aucklanders. I think the mayor took that sign down with the help of one of our park rangers. And importantly, taking our park rangers along to meet with elected members who will be responsible for looking after this place, including Rachel as the manager of regional parks, and Scott Silver, Mark Bowater. Future park activation, really it's around how we activate this land. So 1970 is a long time for access to only be by boat. There are some more essential infrastructure and services will be required, as we reported back in July, water, toilets, fencing, and some minor building upgrades, developing a campground so that people can enjoy these places in an affordable and accessible way, coastal walking trails that connect our existing land, including to places like Martins Bay, which is a significant destination in its own right. Ecological restoration opportunities, as I've talked about, also engagement with mana whenua and a cultural heritage assessment. As from the vendors, there has been a desire to engage with mana whenua about naming. So there is a naming policy in the Regional Parks Management Plan, and that provides an opportunity to bring through the stories and the history of the place. And significant community input will happen through that management plan. And lastly, just to acknowledge support from elected members and the community, but particularly the John Turnbull and Margaret Turnbull Trust and trustees, and that level of philanthropy that we've enjoyed. I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to ask for questions, but Councillor says you were out. I was going to leave comments and that for you to start the ball rolling, but I'll go through the questions first. So Councillor Watson, Councillor Darby, Councillor Sayers, did you have your hand up for questions or just a comment? Because you'll start the comments. Councillor Watson.
No question, just a comment.
Oh, okay. Councillor Darby, questions?
Yeah, just very amazing gift from it's two trusts. It's the John Turnbull and the Margaret Turnbull Trust. It's two trusts. I'm just wondering, how do we acknowledge such a gift? I mean, it's quite considerable. I would expect the minimum a letter, but I'm just thinking, is there some consideration being given to how we acknowledge such a significant generosity of those two trusts?
And through you, Mr Chairman, thank you, Councillor Darby. Yes, we are certainly a letter and seeking to have an engagement with the Mayor and senior councillors as well, but which would allow the opportunity to discuss that with the trustees. They are quite humble about this, the trustees of the two trusts, and being just satisfied that this is a gift to New Zealanders and Aucklanders, but we'll continue that conversation with them, how to acknowledge.
Okay, I get a sense of what's sitting there. Thank you. And just another point, is quite a bit of what appears to be pasture. I'm sure Councillor Cashmore would say it's pretty damn poor pasture. But they are summer photos, they're probably recent photos, lots of sedge and other things in the pasture. Is it being grazed at the moment? Would we be looking, if it is, would we be immediately removing stock from that area?
We will, through Mr Chairman, we have got a grazing licence with the vendor for the property for the foreseeable future. We will have a slightly different grazing regime that's been in place. And it's fair to say we do have either pasture improvement or amenity improvement of the land with things like rushes and other weed species. So we've got some work to do to get it to a standard that will allow the full range of recreation and a standard that we would consider suitable for being good land managers.
We've acquired it, but we've also inherited a grazing licence over for what period?
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry,
so the initial grazing licence is for 5 years, but that's with the vendors. So we've chosen to do that to manage the pasture in the meantime.
Okay, and there were some nice little lambs, but I couldn't catch them to put on the barbecue. I'll go with Councillor Sayers for comments first, and then Councillor Watson. Nonetheless, Councillor Dalton, we didn't know whether you had your pen up for a question. Okay, so Councillor Sayers as the ward councillor.
That's very
sorry,
kind.
I didn't. Apologies. Was there a question? Yes. Sorry, Matuakake, I couldn't see you.
Well, you may not have seen it because it's as a result of Councillor Darby's question in relation to how we acknowledge the two trusts and the people involved. So what were their, did they have any relationship to the whenua, to the land in any way, or are they quite separate? Is it a genuine gift, or are they gifting an
Through you,
interest?
Mr Chairman, it's genuine gift.
Yep.
They don't have any relationship with the land. There were some specification in the trust about being coastal, towards the coastal land and being protected in perpetuity, which this land will be through an order in council, but no, a genuine gift of funding to support the purchase.
Yep. So I think, therefore, I support Councillor Darby's question around how we acknowledge that. If it was acquired under other purposes originally, then I'd have a question around how we acknowledge it. I think you understand what I'm saying. Yeah.
And on the way back, that's exactly what we spoke about after our tiki tour, was to Mace around how we do it. And the initial one obviously was a letter from His Worship the Mayor and myself in regards to that was only the first step, but that has been discussed on the way back, so no, I totally agree.
And my translation of Mahurangi is a place of importance in Te Reo. But get that verified from Ngāti Manuhiri. But and it actually has two meanings for me. It's a place of importance, and the other meaning is away with the fairies. A place, it's a dream place. Yeah.
I'll make sure I talk to Mock about that.
Councillor Sayers, comments?
Well, that's very kind of you, Chair, but I don't mind if you want to comment first. Yeah.
I'm
All right.
not commenting.
All right, okay.
I'm not commenting. I'm just leave it to you and
What's,
Councillor Watson.
Okay. Well, look, it's really a number of acknowledgements. I think we need to acknowledge other local government representatives that have gone before us to create this opportunity. Also, as just been mentioned, the generosity of the trust is almost mind-boggling and does have to be acknowledged, as just been mentioned. This is a wonderful asset for the area, so diverse, lots of potential, which has been touched on, and it's a gift. It's a gift to the people of Auckland, New Zealanders, and the visitors to our country and region. I'm very pleased to hear about the opportunity for Mana Whenua to be involved in the naming of it as well, and more engagement going forward in terms of perhaps highlighting some of the significant areas there from the past. I understand there's a PAR there as well. I want to acknowledge you, Ian Maxwell. I want to acknowledge Mace Ward and all his officers for the tremendous amount of work that's gone into this, including the negotiations themselves, and right down to the park rangers that are now involved, and looking forward to as the caretakers going forward. We've got a blank canvas here with full of potential. I was absolutely blown away with the size of the area, the diversity of the area, of how it can be utilised for the enjoyment of everybody. So thank you very much. Obviously it's within the Rodney ward and a gift for those local people, but it's a gift much wider than that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sayers. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, this is a magnificent acquisition. I'm a little familiar with this area as in a previous life, having taken various school groups kayaking from Sullivan's Bay across to Maharangi East and the beautiful big bay. And I'd have to say on reflection, lacking a little of the health and safety awareness that might dominate such trips now. It was, away you go and good luck, see you at the beach. So this is a beautiful area, and it, as we saw from the shots, it's quite diverse. So it provides that nice link with Maharangi West, Maharangi East, and Scott Point just across the bay. So like some of these far north regional parks like Tawharanui, that they are stunning. You know, they really are beautiful areas, and they have a truly regional visitation. So you go to these parks now, and people coming from all over Auckland, in particular our new immigrants, you know, they seem to have really taken to these far northern regional parks big time. When I came out and Scott Point and find a flat tire in my car, it was a lovely new family from Turkey. My arm was stuffed, and it was this very kind guy from come all the way up from Ellerslie with his family from the day, Turkish family who helped me get my car tyre chained and all that. If you go to Shakespeare, if you go to Wenderholm, there are a lot of people from South and West Auckland. You know, big numbers of people. So I just wanted to emphasise that, because Mace referred to the visitation. Scandred up 66%, Maharangi up 60%. We have a lot of people coming to live around here, but we will have even more people, I would suggest, coming from the other parts of Auckland to visit our regional park network. And it's probably an apt time to just reflect on that regional park network with this magnificent acquisition, because that kind of vision, if you like, started in the mid-60s when Auckland's population was only 500,000. Okay, so it's now 1.6. A lot of those acquisitions that were made in the mid-60s are the kind of iconic places like, you know, Wenderholm, Long Bay, Shakespeare, Tawharanui, even a little later. You know, they at times reach capacity. So we need this regional park network to be expanding. And to fulfil that vision of, you know, Fred Jones and people like Arnold Turner, who did so much during the 60s and 70s with places like Wenderholm and Long Bay. So as Mace alluded to, even with this acquisition, there's a long, rich history that we are the beneficiaries of, but that we should be obligated to continue. In the 60s, when they acquired a number of these big regional parks, it was with an aggressive acquisition policy. It didn't involve generous gifts from benefactors. They invoked the Public Works Act, or at least the threat of the Public Works Act, to take parks like Shakespeare, which was a bit of a novel experiment there, because it was arguable whether it was a Public Works acquisition. But they used the threat of that, acquired Shakespeare, kicked poor old Anson Shakespeare off his farm, gave him a relatively low compensation, but we today enjoy the beautiful Shakespeare, Koromai by Te Harahi, this wonderful pest-free environment. So I would just like to make the point in concluding that yes, Auckland are the wonderful beneficiaries of these people, these wonderful people in the past who had this vision. And I would say we need to continue this vision. So one of the things I feel we confuse is when we talk about our huge open space acquisition budget, we're talking about largely about these big new subdivisions where 10,000 people are going to live and are going to have a pocket park and maybe a suburban park or whatever. This is different. This serves the whole region. This is what we're talking about when you hear councillors complain about the lack of acquisition. It's instances like this. So this is why I'm so pleased today, Mace, with you bringing this to us. But I would urge all of us that we need to continue this. Our population is 3 times what it was in the mid-60s. The visitations are up 100 times of what it was in the mid-60s and 70s. Some of our regional parks at certain times of the year are getting full. So these areas are just priceless, and obviously harder to get now because of the value in land. So when something like this comes along, that's a pittance, a relative pittance for what that will mean for a succeeding generation. So I congratulate all those people who are involved in that.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. And if there's no further comments, like I said, I just want to acknowledge Mace, you and Rachel, and the team. So look, thank you. So we don't need a move-in seconder, but we just want to say thank you to you and your staff, as well as Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's also important work by my colleagues in Community and Social Policy, Katharina Maki and
Yes,
Paul Murray,
and Paul, yeah.
and in our land advisory team who did a lot of the land transactions and
Yeah.
community facilities.
And
So
Mace,
it's a team effort.
and Mace, I know that the negotiation with the two trusts was you, so well done. And John's covered, and both Councillors Watson and Sayers have covered in regards to what this means to Aucklanders. Tēnā korua.